ladies and gents. Welcome to another episode of The Grit Theory. We are so glad you found us today.
This is John Mayo with Aaron Robinson, and we are thrilled that you are joining us as we explore how challenge and adversity can be changed into opportunity.
And don't forget, if you like what you hear today, please subscribe, share with your friends, and we love your comments.
So without further ado, let's jump right into another episode of The Grit Theory.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to The Grit Theory. Wow, this is a very exciting episode for us. We are sitting here with Rob Decker, the mountain, the Robzilla, all that Rob is. We'll be talking about. No, we're gonna talk a little bit about who Rob is, because his story of grit is one worth hearing. I think we're gonna mine some nuggets as we do today, as we talk with Rob Decker, who is the owner of Kingdom Fit. Faith and training. He also has a pretty incredible story how he got here. So, good morning, John.
Good morning.
Here with us today. How you doing?
Yeah, doing well. So when you told me about Rob, I was expecting someone with a dad bod who like trained out of a gym. Like he's showing up, guns ripping out of his shirt.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I know. Watch out.
What is this?
Yeah, I wouldn't pick on Rob.
Yeah,
just looking at him here.
I purposely wore a smaller shirt today, boys.
Good.
Yeah, just for you.
Is it called the schmedium?
Yeah, it's a boyish medium. Yeah. So my 4-year-old, I tapped into his closet and I'm like, "Yo, Caleb, I'm wearing this today, bro." You know.
That's good. I was half tempted to reach out to you yesterday and be like, "Hey, I know it's weird, but I'm hitting the gym in the morning. If you want to come and work out, and then we go up all sweaty and just make fun of Aaron coming in a suit, let's do it."
Dude, that would have been so awesome. Do you know how much I enjoy making fun of Aaron?
You know what?
I do.
Two of us love that idea. That's great.
Well, the reason we're giving Aaron such a hard time is because he was terribly late this morning.
Oh yeah.
It just showed us where his priorities are not.
Because we don't have things to do today, Aaron. We don't. There's
all this is built to bring you joy.
I should say I had a meeting before this, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
There's nothing like accommodating you. Aaron.
So no excuses, right? No one cares that you had traffic, that your cat died.
That's true. I disrespected you, and I apologize. I'm just going to own it.
Thank you.
John.
I accept your apology.
All right, thanks.
I'll let the anger drain out.
Now here's the key. Can we move on?
Yes.
All right. All right. Excellent. Well, Rob, so I think, just assuming people don't know who Rob Decker is, I mean, you're semi-famous in your own world, right?
Right.
But Rob, the reason why we have guests on here is because we know there's just incredible stories. We all have our own piece and information that we've learned along the way. And these discussions, I think, are just great because they add to our information on how to get through the disciplines of life.
Right.
But yours started pretty aggressively, right? We're not going to go all the way back to little boy Rob.
Right.
But take me back to a place where you kind of vectored to start having healthy decisions and healthy disciplines in your life. So take me there.
So you want me to start with the healthy stuff? Because I think it kind of started with the unhealthy stuff, right? Like
Give me that.
So
yeah.
Ultimately, what happened was that I came out of a very traumatizing childhood. Both my parents were addicts and alcoholics, and very troubling relationship that they had. And eventually that carried over onto me. And then I got involved in drugs and alcohol at a very young age. I did take a liking to fitness. Fitness was an escape for me. Sports, I played baseball. That was a great escape for me. But, after that 1 hour workout or that 2.5 hour game, it's back to reality.
Right.
Through my 20s, I just got deeper into the drugs and the alcohol and getting into very poor relationships until I met my match in one of my relationships where I was accused of rape and attempted murder, which led me to a suicide attempt where I jumped headfirst out of a 3-story loft, clipped my foot on an awning, broke my back, shattered my left arm, broke my right wrist, and collapsed my left lung. And I was told that I was never going to walk again. In the event that I did, I would be highly medicated and I'd be living off a disability. I would never play sport or work out ever.
Wow.
Again.
Okay, real quick. Yeah. Let's just pause
stop.
for 5 seconds.
Yeah,
all right.
That was a lot of crazy. Okay, so timeout, Rob. So can we say, can we agree that maybe that was rock bottom? I mean, I kind of got. I mean, you pulled.
Well,
yeah.
I
John?
think that we need to take one more step of pause, just because that was like, yeah, can you tell us about a time that you were maybe struggling and you had the choice to quit or something, and Rob, you're sitting here like, yeah, man, well, here's a nuclear warhead and it's detonating now.
Right.
So I think that's gonna. I think the potency of that is gonna catch people like completely off guard. It caught me off guard. Just all that shotgun blast, right? Awesome, but that's heavy. You're smiling, so I can't wait to see where we go with this.
What's crazy to me too, Rob, before you get into the next piece of it,
Right.
is that some people need that severity of a bomb in their life. Like I know how intense you are anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like the converse intensity had to happen before you would even get your attention.
Right.
You needed that.
Well, I'm kind of that all or nothing guy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if I'm going to commit, I'm really going to commit. Right?
You're going to blow
I was
something up.
committing for sure that day.
Yeah,
right?
head first out a 3-story. That takes courage.
Yeah.
Even in the negativity that was.
Wow.
It was a bold move, but I think that at that point in my life, at 29 years old, I just had it with the lifestyle that I was living. I was making all sorts of bad choices. I was a drug dealer. I was homeless. I wasn't working. I didn't have my license. Like I was engaged in this really horrible relationship. The young lady was an escort, and here I'm being falsely accused of some stuff. And it was just that moment, and as a child, I used to be fed this lie that you're going to be dead or in prison by the time you're 30. And so here it is, 8 days after my 29th birthday, Memorial Day weekend, and the perfect storm of events happened where I get accused of what I got accused for. And that was the moment. Yeah. That was just the moment that, it was just the perfect storm for me to commit to that act.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
Wow.
Well, Rob, that's okay. So here we're at this place where you're coming to the end of yourself. I mean, you said that you enjoyed sports, like that was an escape for you, and that was taken from you. And
right.
Relationships were something that you kind of found some solace in. I mean, you're just at a place where you're looking hard into the mirror. Right.
Right.
So what did you do? Yeah, John.
Were you even, I don't even know if you were looking in the mirror at that point, man. You probably woke up like, what's happened? You're learning. Your body's broken. All these things that did bring you joy in what sounds like a pretty dark time,
right,
are being ripped from you. What was the next step? What happened next?
Oh man, I got arrested in the hospital for rape and attempted murder, and had $1 million bail thrown on me, man. And I think surviving that incident really it woke me up in a sense. I knew that there was a purpose for my life. I just didn't know what it was at that point. But going with the theme of looking in the mirror, man, you just brought something back for me that I hardly ever talk about. And I remember, so when I jumped out of that window, I was 215 pounds solid muscle. I looked like a small linebacker, just shaved my head. I had this tough guy look, and 4 weeks after I jumped out of that window, I had to have a couple surgeries so that I could walk again. I mean, the first few weeks were just, it was hell. And I remember getting up out of the bed to go to the bathroom, and I look up into the mirror and I don't even recognize the dude that's in the mirror. Like, who's this dude that's in the room with me? And it was me, man. Mm-hmm. Some of my hair grown back. I lost, I think it was 50 pounds, 55 pounds. I dropped from 215 to about 160, maybe a little bit lighter than that. They weren't weighing me at the time, but I mean, I was skinny. I looked like someone who hadn't eaten for a long time. And the reality is that in the hospital, I couldn't eat. I was on so many pain medications that my appetite just wasn't there. I couldn't eat. So my body just atrophied so quickly. And I remember there was a physical therapist that came in like day one, and she went to go put something around my leg to measure it, right? It was to check my blood pressure. And she couldn't get it around my legs. She's like, this dude's got some beast legs, right? You know, freaking squatting 500, 600 pounds. And comes back a few weeks later, and she's basically using a blood pressure gauge that you put around someone's arm, around my leg.
Wow.
And she looks at me and she's like, you need to go home. Whatever's going on here isn't helping you, you know? And I just I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was in so much pain. And yeah, so thanks for bringing that back. I mean, hardly do I ever get to talk about that experience of looking in the mirror. And, you know, years after that, I couldn't look in the mirror. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I was so ashamed.
Well, there's something really powerful to that mirror situation. Right? I can relate to that. Not in a similar, but in my own way. I had a mirror wake up call is, who is this guy? I hate this person I'm looking at. Right. I want to walk a little bit further in that.
Yeah.
Talk about it a little bit more because that triggers something, right? When you look in the mirror and you're like, who is this?
Right.
And then you can't stand that.
Right.
What did you do with that?
Well, you know, I knew that I was going to have to hit a path in rehabilitation, and I was going to have to get stronger through the trials and tribulations that I was going through at that time. Was it easy? Absolutely not, man. You know, I was still highly medicated. I couldn't stand to look at myself in the mirror at all. It just, I mean, when I got out of that hospital, and I mean, we're missing a big chunk of the story of what happened in that hospital, but I went to go stay with my mom. And I remember I would go to the bathroom with my head down. I just couldn't bear to look at myself because I couldn't move. I just wasn't that guy. I mean, fitness was my God. I worship fitness. Fitness was that one thing that I was able to turn to in my anger, in my depression, in my anxiety. I was able to turn and I worship that. Like if I could get anything for people to admire, it was my physique. And that was all taken away from me. The reality is that the outside, my shell looked really strong. And you know, the way people would look at you was like, man, that guy's got it going on. He's got it figured out. Like, but on the inside, not at all, not even remotely. I was a broken little boy that was falling apart. You know, what you could see was just, it was a mirage, man. It wasn't for real at all. And so it took me a lot of really deep internal spiritual awakening and addressing childhood trauma and forgiving myself for the things that I had done to myself and forgiving the people around me for the things that they had done that made me the person I was. Wow. You know, there was such this, like, I had to work out the spirit, man. You know, that's what needed to build some serious muscles. And in order for me to get to that place, my physical muscles had to be taken away.
That is so good, John. I know both of us are like ready.
Yeah,
pregnant with a comment.
I can wait till after you.
No, you go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I hear you say like spirit, what I'm hearing is this. I can even see it on your face right now. You're wrestling with the memory of building your character and who you are as a man. Yeah. Right. It's one thing to be a broken boy who can destroy things with their body. It's another thing to have a destroyed body and no self-respect, and to realize that if I'm going to live anything in this life, I need to build something that I can stand behind in who I am. Right. And what I'm hearing, and this is a question for accuracy, is what you're describing is the path of beginning to take extraordinary personal ownership over what you are finding both in the mirror and inside, and beginning to put the work in to build up that spirit self, that inner man, that inner voice into something of strength and character.
Yes.
Right.
Is that accurate?
100%. I didn't want to be a victim anymore.
Yeah, that's
I didn't want to be that.
Right.
That's it.
I
Man.
wanted to be a game changer.
Yeah.
I wanted to walk into this world. You know, I'm still very close to a lot of my friends. You know, I'm 42 years old, and I look at a lot of my friends back home, and they're still struggling with the same childhood struggles.
Right.
I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to be an example of the guy that could turn it around. And there's nothing special about me, boys. Nothing. You can do it. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to rip off that Band-Aid. You have to be able to be willing to look in deep and deal with the pain and the agony and the stresses of the unforgiveness and the childhood pain and, accepting that mom and dad were two human beings as well. And they were broken and they needed help, and they just passed on to you whatever they had, right? Like there was just so much depth to the things that I was trying to figure out and understand. But it helped build me to be a man. How many of us men walk through this life and we're not men?
Yeah.
That's cool. You make a lot of money. You got a cool job, bro. That's a nice car, man. You got some muscles. That's cool, bro. You're a boy.
Yep.
You're a straight up boy.
Well,
Wow.
I'm on fire right now.
Dude,
This is fun. So
we're just lit up right now. Come on.
It's super fun because they say go to the military, it makes you a man, right? The Army didn't make me a man. It showed me how much of a boy I was.
Right.
Right. What made me start to become a man was looking in the mirror. And that was actually when I was making the decision to transition. That's not the Army's fault. This is my own brokenness, my own weakness, right? But I had to start making those decisions, right? Look in the mirror. This is who I'm going to become. But what you just said, I think is like my internal battle cry that I don't articulate very well, but I hate the victim. Like I hate with every fiber of my being, the victimhood mentality,
right? Because
that does nothing but steal, kill, and destroy everyone it touches.
Yep.
And to say, no, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. That's a choice anyone can make. And then you're like, anyone can do it. It's easy. You just have to go through the agonizing price of looking at yourself,
the sweat, the tears, right?
All you gotta do.
The sleepless night, right? Just anyone can do it. It's not that hard. If you can just literally go through your worst version of hell,
right? And those endless tears, they're yummy. They're delicious.
You don't even hydration is so much easier during this phase.
You want Gatorade? Oh, lick your tears, right? That gives you power,
Well,
right?
That's why I grew the beard so that it would collect the tears and I just would stay naturally hydrated.
Right, and then in Colorado, go outside, they freeze. You could save them for later, right?
But there's power to it because you said I had a word for it, and forgive me, I forget the word you said. But you're like, I didn't want to be a victim. I wanted to be
Game changer.
A game changer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing that I just stumbled into for myself is I want to be a waymaker.
Yes.
Right? So it's like game changer, waymaker. What happens when a boy decides to look themselves and start to pay the price to become a man? They they gain the courage to stand on their own feet.
Yep.
And affect change.
Right. Well, I think that we live in a culture that's afraid to feel. And there are growing pains in becoming a man. And you have to be willing to absorb those pains. Unfortunately, everyone wants to pop pills. They want to watch porn. They want to work out. They want to distract themselves from the realities of life and growing up. You got to embrace that, man. Embrace the suck. Embrace the struggle. Like it's struggle that builds character, right? That's what I learned. And as far as the victim mentality, like I can understand the victim mentality and it sucks to see other people going through it, but a lot of people are just conditioned to go through things like that. And, you have to be willing to, go through those spiritual workouts.
So Rob, I got to interject because just to add some levity to the conversation, I know as a fitness trainer, we're going to talk about that here in just a minute too. Why you do what you do, but the cardinal rule of fitness training that every fitness trainer probably has to deal with is you don't skip leg day, right? You deal with a bunch of guys. Yeah, you can't skip
Best day of the week, dude.
You love leg day.
Every day's leg day. Well, so Aaron. So let's let the audience know. I've trained Aaron several times, and he knows my deep appreciation and sickness for leg day.
And John does the same thing. It's like
I like it.
It's
Johnny.
like I'm cursed with friends that love
We're
leg
growing
day.
closer.
We are. This is a bond. Who's Aaron?
That's right.
Like we don't need him here anymore, John.
But this is purpose because it's analogous of what we're talking about. Because I remember I was training with you. It's like, I got this back pain, I got this thing, and you're like, oh, it's your legs. I'm like,
yeah.
Why is that my legs? I hurt here. It's like, well, because and you told me all the things, core strength, all that kind of thing. But just like where you came to the end of yourself, you were strong in some muscles, but they weren't serving you anymore. Like they need you were weak in some areas. Like that's the really hard pill to swallow. Is that you've been skipping leg day emotionally, or with your past or your stuff, and it will always catch up to you. right? I mean,
It
that's what
does
you're
at
having
some
to deal with.
point. You know,
Yeah.
you're going to find that leak in the hose at some point.
Yeah.
It's going to find its way out, right? And unfortunately, like, you know, your legs is what you're standing on, your core is the center of who you are, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so, and I think those are the two areas that most, you know, it's funny because in the fitness realm, and we all know it, you got the guy that does crunches for days because he wants his abs to look right. But
Deadlift.
do you get really right? But where's the strength in your
Yeah.
core? Where's the real true stabilization in your core? Like, you can still be moved. That's cute. You got some pretty little abs. That's adorable. It's great for the beach. But where's the function? You know,
Yes.
where's the strength? And so I became more of like that deep inner strength. Like, here's the thing: when I chase the deep inner strength, like the abs show up, right? They just happen to show up, and instead of just chasing the superficial stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because within the superficial, you're so focused on just the abs. Like, I'm big on the glutes. The glutes, to me, hands down, are probably the muscle that we should just overtrain, if you can overtrain it, right? The glutes tie into the hips and into the core, right? It's all part of the core system, right? You can have a nice core, but some crummy glutes, man, you know? And that's part of your foundation. You know, those legs.
John has stars in his eyes right now.
Oh,
He's
well,
just
I
fawning
see him.
over you right now.
I think he's going to ask me out to dinner. I see it in his eye. It's glistening.
The bromance is
Right.
just so strong right now.
He's like, dude, you're speaking my language.
yeah,
man."
it feels so good.
Are we
Right, I get
ostracizing
it.
people
I
like
get
listening
it.
right now? They're like, you guys are nerding out in the gym.
I have two things, and I do think it's relevant, and I think I'll also help kind of ground to that. Right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
one, the bromance is strong.
Yeah, we've established that.
I
Congratulations.
feel known right now, right? Like I feel
get
understood.
me.
Yes, we just became best friends. But you know, I think what we're talking about, right, is we're using a lot of analogies, and we're speaking from who we are, right? We are men, so that is what we understand, and that's perfectly right.
Perfectly perfect.
Yeah, it's perfectly but it makes sense, right? Like I'm not anything except what I am. So that's good. But all these things, the training, the building character, all these are metaphors for we realized we were imbalanced and we needed to look at ourselves to begin to make the hard adjustments to cut off that which is not valuable, to realize that most of what we are at some point is probably not valuable, and to begin to pull out that which produces value. And that's where what we're talking about with the workout, I think, is a metaphor. And that's where your story is so powerful, because it's like, I had the body, I had the strength, but my mind, my character was nowhere to be found. And the only other thing that I was honestly, while we were laughing, it reminded me of my wife, because I think that what we're talking about is true to humans, right? Like my wife in her story has had to stop playing the victim also and start choosing balance and start fighting forward.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important to tie that into this conversation, because what we're talking about is, I believe, universal to the human experience. It's, hey, we need to wake up, and if we're going to become something of value in this world, we need to pay the brass tacks.
Right.
And that is a painful experience. What do you think about that?
So I want to share a word with you. And so if the audience can take one word away, write it down, put it on your desk in your mirror, whatever you want to do with it. Resilience.
Yep.
You know, I think that we live in a culture that lacks resilience, and I lacked it. Victims lack resilience. They get into a situation and then they buckle, right? There's no fight in them. And so I think that what my recovery, rehabilitation, growth really was building resilience. And I would challenge the audience to really meditate on that word, resilience, and where can I apply that in my life? You know, because being a victim is just not it. You know, being a victim hurts the people around you as well, because you're making decisions based on previous experiences and your hurts and your insecurities, and that's going to impact the people around you. And I have 2 small children, and so I need to lead in a very powerful way so that they can not have to have the same challenges that I had, right? That they can have their own challenges. I always tell everybody this, that Caleb, my youngest son, So I have a 21-year-old son, Christopher, lives out in Tennessee. But Caleb, my ceiling in this life is going to be Caleb's dance floor. So I'm just going to give him everything I can.
Wow.
And he's going to take it from there.
Hold on a second. Say that again. That was a great little quotable there.
I have it if you don't remember what you just said. Yeah.
I mean, go for it, bro.
Okay.
I want to hear you say it.
Well, so yeah, what you just said, I think it's absolutely spot on. You're living a life that makes your ceiling the absolute most you can accomplish, the starting place, the dance floor for your son.
Absolutely, hands down, no doubt about it. I want to give him a level up in this life in a place that I didn't get to start in, and that's what I want for him. And I know he's going to have to go through his own growing pains and his own struggles. He's going to have to learn his own way. But why give him everything that I was handed, right? Why not give him a better jump at life? And I think that, with a victim mindset, I couldn't do that for my children. I have a beautiful young baby girl. I couldn't imagine her dating a guy that I used to be. Mm-hmm. I want her to date the guy that I am now. Way better than me. I'm not that cool. But what I'm saying is that, I want him to have strong character and to have beliefs and to have drive and determination and resilience. Yep. Like I want that, those characteristics to be attractive to her. And I want him to protect her.
And Rob, you mentioned that your negative, like your victim mindset can have effect on other people. And but you've also made the point that the positive, the good discipline choices will also affect. You're creating a dance floor, like, as you said. Think of it that way. I mean, what a beautiful picture that is. I must succeed because there's a dance floor that needs to be built.
Do you mind if I share a quick quote, and then I want to hear your response to both?
Okay.
Are you?
I'm totally cool with it because I just don't want to lose my thought. But
go for
it. It's here.
Go. Is it locked? All right. So Jordan Peterson said, if there was ever a way to positively change the world, it starts by changing yourself.
Absolutely. So I want to break the cycle.
Boom.
Right. So it's all about breaking the cycle. So what was handed to me was handed to my parents, was handed to their parents. And I came to a place in my life where it's like, this cycle needs to be broken. It's a powerful cycle, right? It's been through generation and generation. So it's going to take a lot of work to break through that. So that when it gets passed down to my children, they can advance that, in a positive manner. So.
Wow. That's good, man. I hope you guys caught that the target that we're trying to hit is there's way more on the line than our own situation.
Well, it's bigger than us, man.
Right.
I think too, we live in a day and age where we see all this craziness on TV and, everyone's going at each other's throats and there's all this great division. There's no love in any of that stuff, man. And so for me, it's like, well, how can I know true love and then pass it forward? I think that when you're in this victim cycle, like you don't know love. Victims don't really know love. They don't love themselves. They don't love other people. They don't know how to, right? And so I'm trying to create that through my experiences and through my faith and to pass that down, right? So that my kids have that strong foundation. Love is a pretty powerful foundation, and it will take you very far in this life. Yeah. So
Rob, that's a great transition to the next thing. And did you have
I do.
That's where Jonathan says, I love you, bro.
Yeah.
Let's talk about love.
Let's just keep dwelling.
Do you want to talk about leg day again, guys?
I love leg day.
I could step out of the room.
But seriously,
squats, bro, squats.
I just noticed a central theme from all the conversations we've recorded so far. And I just want to give it a name now. So as we continue, we can keep pointing to it, right? And that is, we've talked a lot in every episode about how we're rejecting the victim mentality, right? In different words, how we are building character, how we're building strength, grit. The grit theory is focused on stories of resilience and how that creates value, right? Yep. The other central theme to that, though, and I think this is really important to identify, is when you choose to begin becoming resilient and paying forward all the work and the price that it takes to become that, it immediately becomes infinitely unselfish and serving to those closest to you.
Yes.
Right.
And it is an act of service, right? It is very much so a personal act in self-serving, but it is even more powerfully going to affect everyone you come into contact with, the most strongly those who are under your own roof, and then just orders of magnitude as you get further from that. But that is so central to this, and I think it's one of the more awesome things about this.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sitting here talking about building our glutes and our abs for self gratification. We're talking about something that is giving our children something, giving our friends something.
Well, the thing about the fitness element of it, I mean, there's lessons to be learned in fitness. Like, we had to work hard to get a particular physique, right? We had to get hurt. We had to dial in our nutrition. We had to try different brands of training. Ultimately, we just had to not give up. Like, we had to be consistent, and we had to keep grinding, and we had to keep going. And I think that applies to life. I mean, this is bigger than glutes and abs, right? I mean, fitness is just another metaphor for life, right? And the things that we try to approach in life.
Let's get into that with what you do now. So you've taken all this experience, and like many who have found benefit in something, passion comes, and once you get to that place of infinite passion and you got a fire in your belly, you can't help but to share it, right? And so you have chosen a tool, a vehicle by which you can share that. So what have you? Tell us about that.
My purpose. Yeah, I like the word purpose.
Your purpose. What's your purpose, Rob?
My purpose. My purpose is to give back, and I use fitness as a vehicle to do so. So, I'm the owner of Kingdom Fit. Currently I run it out of my home. It allows me to raise my children, be home. My dad, he worked hard. He provided for us, but he was never home. So he was there, but he wasn't there. And I think that was part of my issue, is the yearning to have my father close, but he wasn't close, right? And so I can provide that to my children by running my business out of my home. Kingdom Fit to me is so much deeper. It's so much greater than fitness. This is mentorship. This is friendship. This is healing. This is love, man. And it gives me an opportunity to spend one-on-one time with people so that we can create transformation, real transformation. I mean, if you want to come just to have nice biceps, cool. But, there's so much. I'm more than that. And I want more than that for you as well. And so, I've created that platform. And within that platform, we've also created a scholarship program. And so I have a scholarship program called the Mark Scholarship. My clients and I've been on podcasts and TV and radio and all sorts of stuff. And so we get a lot of donors that donate money into my organization. And I use that money to help individuals that are struggling with mental health or financially to be able to come and train with me so that they don't have to worry about paying for it. And I've got to train some people that were in some pretty dark places, and
you went down that road first, Rob. That's what's pretty incredible, is that you're not living in theory that this might work. You've gone through it and actually experienced it.
Grit's not a theory for me. It's a reality.
It's a reality. Yeah, it points to what can happen as these beautiful results. And we didn't mention that you are not paralyzed today, right? You went on a journey and you bucked the doctors. You decided, hey, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I have to get through this.
So now I have to share that story.
Yeah.
So I'm very good friends with my second neurosurgeon. He did the last couple surgeries on my back, and we talked a few months ago. And I was like, okay, Jason, what's the reality of the long-term effects of all this hardware in my body? I don't have a normal spine. I have all these rods, 13 screws, 2 cages. I got all sorts of crazy stuff in my body, right? And he goes, honestly, Rob, out of all the back surgeries I've ever done, I can count on one hand how many people just have functional lives. That means you get to get up, you get to go out, you can go mow your lawn, go grocery shopping, have a job, right? He said, but you've taken it to a whole different level. You've done absolutely everything right. Because he follows me on social media. So he sees like, I'm eating well, I'm taking care of my body, spiritually sound. Like you're doing everything that you can possibly can. But here's the reality. Anyone can achieve that. Again, there's nothing special about what I've done. It's just that I put in the work.
You made the choice.
Yeah.
You chose to make a plan to, you chose to make a plan to shape your destiny and the outcome, right? In your situation, you did have control over what happened to you, right? Which you had to come to grips with. And I think that's that.
Right.
But then you also chose what you're going to do with the repercussions of that first choice.
Right.
And right, like if someone gets cancer out of their control or someone gets hurt out of their control, they need to have the freedom to make the choice of what their outcome is going to be. But there's almost a step further, I think, playing with the idea right now of, well, this wasn't outside of your control, right? You jumped. And then you once again made the decision in a positive way that, hey, I'm paying the price for this lifestyle, these things, the lack of care, all this stuff. But now I'm going to begin making the choices to build what I want. I'm going to put in the work in my diet, in my exercise, in how I sharpen my mind, in the relationships I put in my life to create what I want in this life. And I'm not going to allow 3-foot walls of I call this a 3-foot wall, that you're never going to walk in. I don't think that's a 3-foot wall. That's a bigger one. But you didn't allow this like broken sentence on you.
Right.
Like you'll probably never walk in. Did you even accept when you heard that? No. Did you even accept it, or were you like, no, I'm going to walk?
All right. Another good story. Okay. We can do this all day, boys. So crazy story. I mean, not. So while I was laying in the hospital bed, and at this point, I just developed a relationship with God, right? And I was laying in bed, all broken, beaten, facing rape and murder charges, hospital bills, right? Going to prison. Like, my back was against the wall. I mean, back was broken. It was against the wall as well. And take it however you want, receive it however you want. In the midst of morphine and Dilaudid and pain and no sleep, I hear this small, still voice say, the charges will be dropped, your bills will be paid, and you will walk again. And a couple days go by, and the police officer, so when I got arrested in the hospital, they shackled me to the bed. I had 24-hour surveillance. And after that incident of hearing the voice, a couple days go by, and a police officer looks at me and is like, hey, Rob, right, Mr. Decker, I just want to let you know they're going to drop the charges. Are you kidding me? You're kidding me, right? And so they come in, they release me. They're like, hey, Mr. Decker, we want the best for you. Take care of yourself, get better. Cool. I still couldn't even sit up in my bed at all. It just wasn't happening. I needed help getting just adjusted to be comfortable enough to be okay for 15 minutes. That's how much pain I was in, no matter how medicated I was.
Because you couldn't even have the conversation in your head yet about where you're going to go.
No.
You're just weak and broken and
surviving
all over the place, man. And so my mom was my first visitor after I got released, because you're under arrest. You don't get visitors.
Right.
My mom was the first visitor, and she walks in the room and she's bawling her eyes out. And I know what she's thinking. Doctor just told her. I saw her in the hallway, the doctor, and he just said, your son's never going to walk again, or probably not going to walk again. And so, I just reassured her. I was like, yo, Mom, it's going to happen. And the nurses come in and they're like, yo, we're going to try to, because we were on the East Coast. We were in New York when it happened. yo. I had a bunch of rappers coming in trying to get me to walk. But nurse walks in, And she's like, well, we're going to try to get you to walk today. And I knew for a fact it just wasn't going to happen. And so her and another nurse went to lift me up, and I squealed. It just wasn't happening. They laid me back down and left the room, and a neurosurgeon comes in and says, hey, we're going to perform another surgery. We're going to try to get you to walk. They performed that second surgery, and then I was able to walk again. Wow. I wouldn't even really call it walking. I was able to drag my left leg so my right leg could walk normally. So I landed on the left side of my body. Yeah. That's where I landed. And so all the damage, and even to this day, there's some nerve damage, but I was able to drag. And so I found hope in that. I found hope in that I was going to be able to do all those things because the moment I got up moving, my first thought was like, I'm going to run, jump, slide, like I'm going to do all this fun stuff again, and so I think it was really planted in me early on that I wasn't going to let this. I wasn't going to let this win.
But it sounds like you even had voices around you. You had the divine voice. You had the nurses. You had neurosurgeons. There's certainly people that said no.
Encouragement.
There was encouragement. I think it really. Yeah. It really had to come down to me, though.
Yes.
There was a choice you made.
It had to come down to me because here's the reality. Especially because I was on like 5 different pain medications. It's easy. And I had this conversation with Jason, the neurosurgeon. He goes, how many people opt for just eating the pain medication and sitting around their house and collecting a disability check? I knew at some point I had to get off of disability. I knew at some point that the pain medication was a vehicle or a tool to help me rehabilitate until I got strong enough to get off of it, right? Yeah. I had to get strong enough mentally, physically, spiritually to get off of all that pain medication and move forward in life. And I used it for what it was intended for. I didn't use it as a crutch, like I can't stay on this stuff. And the reality is many people opt for that path. It's the easy path, right? Like it's the path of least resistance, right? There's no resilience in popping pills and sitting on your couch and watching Maury.
Wow.
I'm grateful this just happened because I don't recall what you just said, but you said something. I was like, it's great that you had these voices of encouragement. And I saw the fire light in your face, Rob. You're like, yeah, that's all good and well and cute. But no, it was my choice. And you had just said, like, I had to choose that this would not be my feat.
That's right.
I will walk. And that comes back to the resilience, to the grit, to all these things. It doesn't matter what it ultimately comes down to you, to the one person.
It does.
The buck stops with the individual.
Well, no more than a crutch makes you walk.
Yeah.
It's like the encouragement is nice to have. It supports you a little bit, but it's just like you said, there are some things that are meant to be Band-Aids.
Right.
This is a temporary thing, but ultimately I have to do the work of healing and getting better. How long was that process?
That was a 4-year process into really getting
4 years
back. Yeah, because I was still struggling with the alcohol for the first 4 years. I was using the alcohol as a form of medication. There were still certain areas. So as I was addressing some stuff, there were certain areas I still wasn't addressing, but I knew eventually at some point I had to get off the alcohol too, because I knew that alcohol was a medication for me. Right. I knew drugs was a medication for me. I mean, talk about addiction and stuff. Like I've been there and I get it. When I accepted that I was just trying to drown something inside of me, that I wasn't trying to deal with something. I didn't know how to deal with something. I just didn't know how to cope. Like until I could look the bull, like grab the bull by the horns and say, you know what, I'm just not going to deal with this BS anymore. Mm-hmm. Like that's when you could start shaking that other stuff. I think that a lot of the addiction stuff just comes from the unwillingness to address a situation at hand and be like, you know what, I just need to take this and I need to own it and I got to move on with it. And so I was able to eventually move on so I've been sober 8 years now. So it was 13 years ago that I broke my back. Wow. In about a little bit more than 8 years that I've been sober now. So.
Rob, man, that's incredible. It wasn't a quick, a couple things I see in that. It wasn't a quick thing. This isn't like you made a decision to walk and it fits inside of a 90-minute movie, like
it was a process. It was definitely a process.
Long thing, right?
But here's the thing, like the trauma was so deep. There was so much brokenness. There was so many shattered pieces.
Yeah.
I put together, what I could until it was time to make the next move.
Yep.
Right. And so some of my longest stuff. So, you know, alcohol was a medication since I was 14 years old. I mean, the first time I got introduced to it, I was like, wow, I don't have to feel anymore. That's cool.
Yeah.
Right. And so I knew that was kind of a go-to for a long time.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people don't comprehend, or they don't fully embrace that medicating is exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, there's a weakness there. You're not addressing it.
I do think there are two sides to that coin. I think that people do have different relationships with, say, drink. My relationship with drink is more similar to what you're saying, and I have to be very careful of that. And I do think that there are some who, I mean, because experiences differ.
Right.
So I think that some would not be able to relate to that genuinely because that's not been their experience, and that is truthful. But I think that what I would agree with is that there's a lot of people who would think they're in that category I just described, but that's self-deception.
Right.
I think it's a lot smaller than the group self-prescribes.
Right. I think the group of people that can actually do that stuff recreationally is very small.
Agreed.
I think it's very, very small. But I will say this. It may not be the alcohol, but it's going to be something else.
There's always some form of escape, right?
Right.
I think it's to me, we're in like, to use the gym analogy again, skipping leg day. It's like to get it off even just an addiction there's so many muscles. Like when you were coming in recovery, you weren't dealing with everything at once. You had to deal with it one at a time. You know, there were certain muscles in your leg. It was one thing at a time. Then there were emotional things you had to deal with one thing at a time, but you were consistently doing it every day. You were working on something to get better.
Well, you know, and even in that process, like there's days where it felt like you were taking 2 steps forward and 4 steps back.
Right.
You know, the next day you're like,
that's real.
But that's the reality of growth.
Well, I think there's encouragement in that, right? Like you didn't get up and walk after your surgery. You barely hobbled and drug a leg with help.
Right.
It was 4 years of growth, and you're still training to overcome the residual effects of those injuries. Like,
absolutely.
I think that's not discouraging. I personally find encouragement in that because it's like, okay, I don't need to be able to climb Everest right this second, right? Like, I'm going to take on everything I can barely bear up under and grow stronger in it so that tomorrow I can pick up just a little bit more. Yeah. Right.
And everything.
There's a lot of lessons. So, you know, I appreciate the fact that it took me so long because I think that there was a lot that had to take place and a lot that needed to be learned and understood, and that takes time, right? If, you know, if I had not got injured, or in that injury I healed really quickly, or the severity wasn't as bad, would I still have grown to the person that I am today? Right. So hindsight 2020, I can say, 4 years, that's a degree somewhere, right? Like, my degree just came somewhere else, right? But there was so much to be learned and appreciated and gained in that process.
Absolutely.
And I would never take it back. I mean, I think one of the questions people ask me, like, well, you tell them your story, they're like, oh my God, that happened. I'm so sorry. Like, oh, I'm not. I'm really not sorry. Yeah. I'm not sorry at all, because I wouldn't be here today, the man that I am today, if it wasn't for those personal experiences. I wouldn't be able to help the people that I'm able to help on the level that I get to help them if I didn't experience those things for myself and have the patience and understanding and empathy for those people that, you know, that it may take some time to get where they need to go. You know, I think in our culture, it's all about the quick fix and, you know, wanting to get there so, you know, so quickly, right? And there's nothing to be gained in getting what you want right away. Nothing.
And
it's
on
a journey.
And on that, something that just like screamed at me is the quick fix thing. Oh, I'm sorry you went through that. That is a quick fix in that conversation, right? No,
right.
I'm so sorry you went through that. Conversation's over. You're like, okay, well, what are we going to talk about? This is not a place for that. No. This is a place where we're intentionally pursuing these conversations, not to give an apology, but to be like, okay, how did you deal with the ramifications of that choice you made, and how did it shape you?
Yes,
right. I think that's one of the things that I personally love about this environment. Right? It's oh, how cool. I get to hear this crazy story from you, and you're expecting me to dig into you on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
Well, I want to. Here's the deal, man. Like, man, I'm grateful for. First of all, thank you guys for allowing me to be like your first guy on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Like the first, like
You're breaking the seal.
this is, yeah. I've been fortunate enough and to be able to talk on a lot of platforms and stuff, and so I'm very grateful for that. And a lot of times within those platforms, they just let me tell my story. Like, I don't want to tell my story anymore. Like, I've heard myself talk too much, but I can deeply appreciate people that are willing to dig a little bit deeper or get me to think about something a little bit different. I think even early on when we started this conversation, like, dude, thanks for going there, bro, because that's not something I normally think about, and that's not something that I normally talk about. Yeah. And that's refreshing for me. And it gives me more thoughts and ideas on how to deal with certain situations. Like, man, thanks for bringing that back. And right now I'm currently writing a book. And so, you just sparked some more stuff that I'm like, dude, that needs to be down on paper, right? That's chapter 9, right? And I appreciate that, man.
Thankfully, it's being recorded, so if you need a reference,
just listen to it again. Yeah. Just listen.
5, 6, 50 times.
Right. Make sure you post it on social media and talk about how you had such a great time with us.
Yeah, and if you have any advertising channels, feel free to use them. Right? But all joking aside, like, that is what we did. Like, Aaron and I joked.
Yeah.
All the time, probably in one of these episodes too, about we're doing this selfishly, but selflessly.
Yeah.
Right? We're doing this because we want to have the conversations with each other. We want to have stimulant conversations like this. But we want to share that and create a culture of encouragement that strengthens people, right? Especially in this disenchanted, isolated weirdness that we're experiencing right now. And I'll leave it at that. This is like a beckoning call to say, hey, we're still together. Hey, we're still human. Hey, we have choice and authority here on how we're going to lead this crazy thing we call life. And with every conversation, it seems that it grows just a wee bit stronger. And I say there's been 50. There's been 3. Well, we have a special episode coming out next week and we recorded yesterday. But it's getting stronger. And like this relationship that's happening here, is cool.
We've had this.
Well,
we've had these conversations though 50 times before this with other friends in garage. Like, we have personally benefited from these types of conversations. I've had these conversations with you prior to now, and we need to capture that and hear that and be inspired by that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, Aaron. I mean, you've always talked about how inspiring my story is and stuff like that, and I think that my personal belief is that we live in a day and age where men are afraid to speak up and be transparent. And I just want to take advantage of those opportunities to do stuff like that.
Yep.
Be like, yo, bro, it's cool to talk about, hey, you got molested as a kid? Cool, talk about it, man. Because we know that affects your marriage right now and the intimacy in that marriage, right? Let's talk about drug and alcohol. Yeah, let's talk about those things that you're trying to shove back and compartmentalize. Like, let's talk
and hide from.
But here's the thing: break through that stuff.
Yeah.
Build from it and go help somebody else. Go through their junk.
Come on.
Right? Especially right now. That. Especially when everybody's hiding right now. So how about you break the mold?
Yes.
Right? And then you go out and you go be a game changer or a
waymaker.
Yeah.
Come
right?
on, yeah.
Like, I think that's our responsibility and our calling as men in this world is to go out there and lead by example and be the change. I'm not expecting politicians or my government or my laws to be the change to make any. No, I expect it from me. And I expect it from the men around me.
Rob, that's so good, man. As we wrap here, I wanted to just.
You're gonna start rapping?
I'm gonna.
Wow, this is
lyrical word is something we've been working on. So allow me to start dropping a mad beat.
Everyone just tuned out just now. Right? That's right.
Everyone's like, please don't.
Right. Uh-oh.
Please don't, Aaron.
No.
3 white guys with a microphone. Uh-oh. Yeah. So they think they're the Beastie Boys.
It's about to go terribly wrong.
Great.
Turn the podcast off now. Yeah.
There's a book I was reading called The Go Giver. I highly recommend it. It's an easy read. And it's one of the things they talk about are the stages by which your life can impact other people. And it breaks. One of the things that was just kind of thrown in there is this survive, save, give, and this is like a financial place, but it's really how we are, even with our talents and who we are. Is that sometimes we're in survival mode, our back's broken. No one's expecting greatness from you because you are busted and broken.
Right.
But you can't stay there, as you said, just to encapsulate all this is that at some point you have to realize this is a temporary situation by which I'm surviving. And then I have to get to the place where I'm saving up, I'm storing up this energy, I'm healing, I'm getting stronger. I'm also learning new concepts and things. I'm dealing with stuff that I don't want to deal with. And it stinks, right? But you're also learning something that you're about ready to give away. And that's the last kind of piece, is that I have to learn these lessons. I have to take that hill. I have to build my back up, because me succeeding in this will affect other people. And you and I, what I really appreciate about what you're doing is that you haven't just healed up and then gone away to live your own life and take care of you.
Right.
You healed up so that now you can take that same message, use a tool, which you use fitness, by which you can train the mind on how to overcome difficulty.
Well,
Yeah, John.
go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was going to say it's all part of the evolution, starting with the choice to take ownership.
Yes.
Right? That's what I keep hearing you bring the conversation back to, Rob.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, that's true, but it started with my choice, and then my capability grows as I continue daily to remake that choice.
Yeah, and it's not done. You're still you're in it.
Well, the whole survival method is that victim mindset, right? And it gets to a place where it's got to be bigger than survival, right? And so, because I spent so much life in survival mode, and I took so much from other people, I hurt so many people, I took so much from this life. Well, it's like my only option at this point is to give back. Like, how do I give back to a world that I took from so much, right? And I know that I was only doing it in my narrow-mindedness of victimhood and survivalism. Is that a word? Can we create that right now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's use it.
Yeah, we're using survivalism. So but now it's okay. Well, now it's time to give back from what I took from. So, I hope that everyone in their recovery gets to that place, when you're able to heal and move forward. It's like, I think it's our responsibility to give that away.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a gift. It's to be given away. What's been given to me, what's been poured into me, is a gift. I'm not saying I'm a one-man show and that I'm freaking awesome for doing all this stuff. There's something much greater that lives inside of me that pushed for that stuff. And with that, I need to give that to other people.
Absolutely. Rob, thank you.
So I feel like that's the perfect point of finality to end this on.
Yeah.
Let's just give a shout out on where we can learn, where people can learn more about you, hear your story, find what you're doing, right, and support as they feel. Please, Aaron.
Well,
Would you like to do that for me?
we have frolicked around the rabbit hole, but we haven't learned everything there is, Rob. And I would love for you guys to get to know Rob Decker through robdeckerspeaks.com. You can learn more about what he's doing and keep up to date on his journey. Also, you are running Kingdom Fit, which is a fantastic vessel by which you are training these ideas, as well as getting people physically strong and mentally strong. So
I also work for a psychotherapist as a peer substance abuse coach. I'm a recovery coach. And so if anyone's listening and they're serious about their recovery, I co-facilitate a free class that takes place on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And we do things like miniature golf, bowling, go-karting, but we have simple applications that we do in class that will help people in their recovery, because a lot of us, are just disheveled and, and so if you just reach out to Life Stance, psychotherapy in Colorado Springs, it used to be Viewpoints Psychotherapy. They just switched names or got bought out. But if someone is serious about their recovery and wants to hang out with me a couple hours a week, please take advantage of that.
Rob, just another example how you don't let people skip leg day. So if there's some weaknesses you want to address, if you're trying to get through the journey and not quit, I would encourage you to reach out to Rob Decker. Thank you for being here today. And what a great conversation that was.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll make sure that all these contact links are in the summary for today's episode. So, Rob, thanks for coming.
Yeah, man,
and everyone,
thanks for
thank you
having
for listening. Huh?
All right, we're going to go do burpees, guys. We gotta go.
In his suit in the snow.
Right?
Sounds great.
With a weight vest on.
All right. Take care, everyone.
All right, guys.
That was another episode of The Grit Theory. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and let us know. If you did not like what you heard, keep it to yourself.
We hope that you got at least a few nuggets that you want to share. We look forward to seeing your comments below. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Take care.